some mixes are still sounding incredibly powerful today. One of the main engineers behind that sound was Bob Power. Bob Power passed away 3 weeks ago, and the way he was approaching mixing, it was totally different from all producers are doing right now, even me if I'm doing like house or minimal house. After watching his masterclass, 3 ideas really stood out. First idea that caught my attention, it is like the depth that sometimes we are searching into the mix is not coming from reverb. The depth is coming by the way you're going to distribute, the way you're going to balance signal into that 3-dimensional space, okay? Most of the people, most of the producers sometimes are like searching for depth, searching for that sensation, that bigger sensation into the mix by adding reverb. Depth is coming from the way you're gonna balance signal against each other. We have to think about like the mixes, and you already know that, into that three-dimensional space. So you have the left and right, where you're gonna have your signals mainly generating the stereo image. You have the front and the back, controlled by level and tone, elements that they are like brighter and louder. They're going to tend to feel closer, and elements that are a little bit darker and quieter, they are tends to feel a little bit like further away, like far into the mix. And there is also that third dimension that I was mentioning just before, that I call the background. Even into clubbing music, we have that dimension, because Bob is all the time speaking about like hip hop and down tempo music, but me into club music, and it is also like a really important thing that I'm all the time teaching to my student. It is like we have to generate that background, that third dimension, made of texture, ambient, that near to far perception, a little bit subconscious. So this is more or less the 3-dimension that Bob is saying, speaking, explaining into this masterclass, okay?
You can think about the dimensions of a mix in 3 ways. Top to bottom, which is frequency content. Side to side, which is your stereo field. And front to rear, which is the depth of the mix. And the depth of the mix, the last one is really the toughest one. Top to bottom, to get a pleasing complementary set of frequencies for all the instruments to exist in, where it's pleasant to listen to, that's tough enough. Left and right, the stereo field, well, it's kind of an easier proposition. There's a reason we don't put the kick drum and the snare drum hard right, because it takes away the glue.
I was searching for some interview of Bob before doing this video, and the way he was explaining his main album, before the one he did for Erykah Badu, he did a bigger one. He won a Grammy for Erykah Badu, but just before this one, it was the album of Tribe Called Quest called Low End Theory. And he said that a part of like the musical production that Q-Tip and him were like doing like we are using a different way of layering samples, a different way of using like beat and things like that. He said that in terms of engineering, in terms of sound, the mix was feeling deep because not of the reverb, because everything has its own space. If every element has the same tone, same density, same level, the mix sounds flat, Sometimes we are searching for depth, searching for some different positions, some relief, I don't know how to call it in English, distance between signals, separation between signals by adding reverb. But it's not exactly the way that Bob is saying, and I feel like it's completely true, So the second idea from that Bob Power masterclass, it is like into that industry, into that hip-hop, modern pop industry, down-tempo style of music, the great mixes are often subtractive. Rather than all the time adding EQ, compressing, treating a lot your signal, your chain, your channel, it is better to remove. Why? Once you are happy with your timbre, with your drums, with your groove, and this is something all the time, always I'm saying to my students, for clubbing music, like once you have this, you don't have to treat that much, You just have like to balance everything, but you don't have to overmix, to over-treat your signal, especially with the groove. Once you have that shuffle, that swing, even with down-tempo music, you don't have to treat that much. So it is really, really important when you are jamming, when you are making your idea, to get all that aspect really, really nice. And I think and those aspects are not hard to find, it's just like inspiration. When producers are adding too much frequency, the mix sounds crowded and instruments can be masking each other, a kind of arch, fatiguing, like boring. In the opposite, when you're cutting unweighted frequency, making some space rather than hiding, suddenly there's magical phenomenon appearing in the mix. The clarity is going to appear without forcing anything. Transient, instrument, they're going to separate each other much more better. The mix is going to breathe, okay? And this, you're going to notice especially with the mid-range. Because Bob is speaking about the mid-range, he's trying to prioritize the mid-range because it is his own ecosystem, of hip-hop and pop music. And especially with vocal, guitars, synth, samples, because all of that sound are located into that mid-range. So if that area is not clean, the mix is gonna give that impression of a small mix. But if the mid-range is clean and balanced, without too much things, he was saying if the mid-range is too dense, so too loudy, too many things, too many information that maybe we don't need, the mix is gonna lose size.
I wrote, carve up the frequency spectrum to hear things in a mix. Yeah, make room for other things, okay? And just pull that back in just a little bit. All of a sudden, there'll be so much more room for everything else because those resonant peaks won't be masking the other instruments. It's a big one. It works really well. And again, you'll do a lot less boosting because you've cut out the things that are getting in the way of the tonal uniformity of the instrument, rather than trying to make up for it with a boost here and a boost here, and you're boosting everywhere except that resonant peak. If you go and take that resonant peak and pull it down a little bit, everything else will be a lot more evenly represented.
Try to listen all the album from De La Soul, from Tribe Called Quest, from Juggle Brothers, from Stetsasonic, from all that Native Tongues collective and all that early 90s hip hop. The mid range is here. All that sound is translating perfectly into the radio in everywhere. It is really like a nice, really warm mid. The cleaner your mid range is, the bigger the mix is going to be. But for us, I will make a little parenthesis for us, electronic producer. Your mono, if your center is clean, more the mix is going to look bigger and more you're going to be like, wow.
So the third idea that really stood me out, it was about envelope and transient, the envelope of sound, and how you will be able to reach that loudness. Most of the engineers, the good engineers, are not squashing their track with a heavy limiting. They are more controlling their transient and the envelope of sound. So if you think about an envelope, the envelope is just the way we can represent the signal, any signal, in a really short amount of time, defined by 4 points, attack, decay, sustain, release. And in all those rhythm-driven music, like hip-hop, urban music, like reggae, reggaeton, trap, all that really percussive sound, even with house and techno, at the end of the day, we are dancing on percussion. The most protagonist signal that you're going to hear during a party or club or concert is going to be the kick, the snare, and hi-hat, no? Of course, there is some bass line, there is some melody, some samples, but the people are going to dance on drums. So this is the most critical part if you're not controlling the transient, and if you want to be able to have a good loudness. About Bob Power is all the time saying that if you kill the transient, you kill the groove. Me, sometimes when I'm starting to mastering a lot for some people, different kind of project, and there is some track, suddenly they arrive into my project, controlling the phase of the track. I didn't put any plugin, but suddenly they're already reaching that -7, -8 love, while others are really difficult to push, It's just because the mix is much more balanced in terms of transient, in terms of envelope. We can think also about compression. And that really caught my attention. It is better to use like a slow attack and a fast release. The transients, they are not going to be touched. You're not going to touch the transient, so they are not going to touch the body of the sound. Even if you want to control a voice, it is better to use slow attack and fast release, because he said all the time during the masterclass that if you're using like a fast attack, you're losing the inner side, the life, the organic side of the signal you try to compress. On fast attack, because it can like reduce and cut all the life of your sound.
Yeah, so I have the slowest attack I can and the fastest release I can. By the way, fast attacks on compressors are the quickest way to take all the life out of your music. Now, I'll tell you, you put a fast attack, people say, how fast? I don't know. The knob is over here. But say 10, 15 milliseconds on a vocal, what you'll find is the vocal will always sit in place, but you take all the inner life out of it. You know, you've done gain control, so you can always hear it just perfectly, but you've taken all that inner push out of the vocal. What you want to do is enhance what that singer meant to be doing, but give it a constant presence in the track. And again, fast attacks, you'll always hear it, but you'll take away any of the push that singer has.
This chapter 3, you know, it was reminding me like the two major albums he was engineering. And for me, one of the major influence album of hip-hop was Public Enemy. Bob Power was the engineer of Fear of Black Planet, and also he take Nation of Million to hold us back. So two major albums into the hip-hop industry. And when you're listening to that album, especially Fear of Black Planet, you can listen that the drums are like hitting like really incredibly hard because of the transient. The transient have been like really like preserved, and it's loud. The snare is like 5 meters.
This is a journey.
Wide and really like banging, you know, is because of the transient and for sure of this slow attack process. It takes a Nation of Million to hold us back was like a little bit less success. Maybe they sold a little bit less, but it was like really like a kind of so like a really like a piece of a new way of artistic like way of engineering sound. You know, it really changed like the sound we were perceiving hip hop, especially with these two albums of Public Enemy.
It's PETV with your anchors, Sherelle Winters and Flavor Flav.
Yeah, boy! Yo, bust the move!
In today's edition of PETV News, we'll explore the devastating effects drugs are having on our society in what is now termed the basehead syndrome. We'll also feature the controversial group Public Enemy and their new album, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back.
And when you are listening like some interview of Bob Power about the work he did for Public Enemy with the Bomb Squad was the collective of Public Enemy, and Bob Power was like engineering all that sound, you know. He was saying that it was like millions of samples, millions of drums, a lot of sound, urban sound, scratch, FX, blah, blah, blah. And he had like to separate everything and put the voice of Chuck D like on top of that. If you remind like the first chapter that I was describing about depth and reverb, you can feel it in all the major album of Bob Power. The transient are really like preserved. You have a lot of punch, attack. It's really percussive. There's not so much signal. Even if with Public Enemy and the Bomb Squad, he had a lot of work because there was a lot of material to mix and to cut. As he said, what will be like the magic formula of Bob Power? What will be like the potion, la potion magique? It will be like those signal like distributed into like three-dimensional space. Everyone has his own space balanced against each other, and everyone also has his own transient, is all percussive, and they are like hitting all of them like really hard. You know? Want to know more about loudness? I just wrote a PDF about loudness. Loudness is not about limiting, it's really about envelope and sustain. So the PDF is below in the description. Take it, it's a free download. If you like all that kind of stuff, tips, tutorial, free content, anything related with sound, with mixing, with engineering, come to my Telegram. We have a lot of fun on my Telegram, and you will be happy for sure. So I see you next, and thanks for everything. Bye bye.
If y'all really like to rock the funky beats, somebody in the house say hell yeah. Yeah. I like that for the people up top. Check this out.